A warm welcome to all our viewers to our series Natural Medicine. Dear viewers, I have the great honour and pleasure today to speak about the musculoskeletal system again. And for this I was allowed to invite Mr. Karl Müller again, who's here with us today. Welcome, dear Karl. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Alexander. We did a few episodes already, and one of them was that so many knee and hip surgeries could be prevented if you did something which is simply walking like on a trampoline, that is, walking properly, on different shoes, where you don't just walk on the rock-hard concrete, would be a very important thing. And that fascinated me so much. I'd like to thank you once again. And I just want to tell you, dear viewers, go to our YouTube channel. Please search for Karl Müller and you'll immediately see this video, this special broadcast. Just watch it again, please. So what we keep hearing is we should move more, but nobody tells us how. I'd like to clarify this today in this episode, but I want to start with a statement from in my opinion, an incredibly wise doctor. He's 97 years old today. He has 2 PhDs and is also a professor. It's none other than Professor Hecht. I'm now playing a short video for you here. We have to listen very carefully to what he's saying. So, I have the basic principle that movement can replace all drugs, but no drug can replace movement. Period. I'll go back to our opening slide. What we experience again and again today is that we crawl as small children, then come into the upright walk, and then the cascade begins again, that we will eventually develop backwards again. Has it all to do with walking on hard ground? Wasn't it like that in the past, in evolution? Well, it's really not the case with certain primitive peoples. I was in Kenya with the Maasai people, primitive people who basically always, well, not basically, they only ever walk in nature, 20 kilometres on average per day. And with them, it's not like that. They won't get quite as old as us. They won't become between 90 and 100. But there are also many old people there, 60, 70, 80-year-olds, and they all walk upright. They don't know these problems of being stooped. And it just has to have something to do with walking in nature. They either go barefoot or they tie themselves some car tyres around the feet to partially protect them from thorns. But of course they walk with a lot of activity in their feet. And it doesn't happen there. Professor Hecht said in the beginning, medicine can't replace movement. And diet can't replace movement either. Diet and movement are two completely different areas. They're both like food for the body. Movement is also a type of nutrition for the body. Yeah, I've heard that a lot of movements also kind of generate electrons, generate energy sources, but an incredible amount has not yet been scientifically documented. There's still little knowledge, but every movement gives energy. Not only takes, but also gives. Yeah, so in this regard, I can't speak scientifically, but I can speak about biomechanics and movement science. Diet is a supplement to movement, or the movement that humans need. Like on the nutritional level, we need water and food. We also need nutrition, healthy eating and healthy exercise. And when it comes to movement, you never hear how you have to move. You need to move more. Who says you need to eat more? Yes, in the war, when we were malnourished, it was obviously important to have enough nutrition. But nowadays, you really only talk about the quality of the diet. But for the movement, we only say, you have to move more. That's not true at all. I'd rather move in certain circumstances less than too much. Because when I can't move anymore, when I use a rollator and so on, when I move into the pain and I keep moving, it doesn't get any better. No, it's harmful. Yeah, sure. Too much exercise can be harmful. And now, if we look at the picture again, as a child, you learn to walk. And then sometime in the teenage years, you walk more and more upright, and in old age, you lean forward again. This has to do with the quality of movement, that in old age we walk on sticks again and lean forward. It's because of the quality. It doesn't have to be like this. God willing, I'll never walk like that. I say that in reverence. I have nothing under control. In the end, I'm grateful. But you can also do something about it. You can do something about this quality of movement if you work on your feet. If you look at the two skeletons, this monotonous movement on the left, it makes the fascia felt stick together. It's like putting them in a cast. At the bottom right, you can see the fascia. This is from fascia research. You have the fascia organ, which is the largest organ in humans. We just discovered it that way. Yeah, great. The connective tissue has been known for a long time. The doctors in orthopedics don't pay any attention to it. Nowadays, they do minimally invasive things and such, but it leaves scars. And that also destroys so much of the control of the movement. Well, I find this picture incredibly interesting because we discussed that already in the second episode. But it is logical. If we walk like this, then we will face problems. We stoop because of this kind of movement, and it's just getting worse. Very simple, and it doesn't have to be like this. Yeah, the goal is that we, actually as young people, or even when we have problems, we could learn to walk upright, again, with special footwear. Exactly. And then we're painless. Yeah, exactly. Through the trampoline movement. I have a little statement here that I'd like to briefly include. I'm so active, thanks to your shoes. I can really run at full throttle anywhere. I used to have discomfort in the knees, in the upper joints, and also with the feet. I also used to sprain my ankle many times, but not anymore. And I was worried about spraining my foot in such soft shoes. It needs rigidity. We used to tightly bandage, but that's wrong. If you bandage too tightly, then the circulation's blocked. And hard shoes are the last thing you want to use. Sincere, it works wonderfully. But the reality is that we can actually see a lot more people, like here in the picture, on the streets today. More and more people are walking with rollators in a stooped position, and they walk into the pain. Yeah, exactly. But I'd like to add something to the statement. This customer, I don't know him personally, he spoke about soft shoes. He simply warned against hard shoes. And that is of course correct, but soft shoes are not ideal. Elastic, springy shoes are needed, and this is what he wears. He simply used the term soft shoes, but what he wears are elastic, springy shoes. This trampoline movement, that's what helped him. And because this trampoline movement is missing in our everyday lives, many old people just walk like these people, and then they can no longer move painlessly. And when you then say you should move more, then that's exactly counterproductive. A basic principle, biomechanical basic principle, movement science basic principle is surely that we should never move into the pain, that we should find out how to move so that the pain isn't there. This is what the body does through a relieving posture too. So if I suddenly get knee pain somewhere in my life, then the body notices it itself and it then evades it. This is called relieving posture. When it's visible, it makes you limp, and then you limp because the body automatically evades this relieving posture. But the problem is that these many layers of relieving postures ultimately result in a stooped walk because we're constantly evading in pain. Because we have no alternative. If we had the alternative of walking barefoot in nature, walk barefoot in nature at the first pain, on a soft meadow or where it doesn't hurt, then we automatically no longer walk in the relieving posture. Then we weight evenly on both sides. But you weight at a different joint angle. And then you wouldn't have these many layers of relieving postures, but you would weight evenly. And the feet would be trained more, but we don't have these options, even on these hard floors. Unless we wear shoes with elastic, springy soles. So this person over there now, for example, if she were going barefoot into a meadow and walk there, would she walk better than here now? All people who walk like this, first of all, they would really say, wow. They would say, wow, how pleasant, how beautiful is this? That's great for the feet, when it's very slightly soft. These people, if they can and want to, on a mini tramp where they can hold on, or we also produce mats like this, elastic, springy, relatively thin, 4 centimetre thin mats. When they walk on these mats and hold on to a wall, a heater or wall bars, and then you see that the corners of their mouths rise. They're happy. People, including old people, enjoy pleasant movement. But they don't know that there are alternatives. You have these shoes, and then the worse it gets, the more support you get. And they would surely enjoy it more, and then over time, if they did that regularly, they would walk better too. The mobility would come back. That's quality of life again, to a certain extent, and if you want more, you obviously have to do additional exercises, and then the quality of life comes back, and the better you can walk. The better you can walk pain-free. The more the whole body, the whole organs, everything benefits, blood circulation, everything starts to work better. The other extreme, what we also know is, let's go back to the slide, we ride bicycles, we go walking or jogging, we hike and so on. It's movement too. But everywhere we're back on the non-natural floor, which is actually not good for our musculoskeletal system. Yeah, that's exactly what the doctors say. You need to move more. Yes, that's right. Because, of course, we have a very high proportion of cardiovascular problems. Sure, but please barefoot in the meadow. Yeah, but they don't say how. Then they'd also have to say, they also don't say you need to eat more. They then say, we also have the nutritionists and say, you have to consume these and those vitamins, vital substances, and so on. Nobody tells you about the movement, because the movements we saw before, the different sports, this is harmful to the body. Well, not for the cardiovascular system, not for the mind. That's great that you even do something at all. But if you don't want to walk stooped in old age, this doesn't help. On the contrary, people who jog a lot, do a lot of sport, do a lot of walking, do Nordic walking. They can't avoid this walk at an old age. On the contrary, it may even accelerate, because these monotonous movements trigger fasciae adhesions, make fascia felt even faster. And this now shocks many. Some people maybe, but think about it. The quality of the movement matters. You should start trampolining. Then I would much rather do this same cardiovascular activity on a trampoline. Then you've done much more and it's much better. What you might not have there, this beautiful nature. Walking through the forest is different, of course. You may not have that, but for your cardiovascular system, and especially for the musculoskeletal system, much more has to be done. But you can do that if you build a trampoline into the shoe and ultimately take this principle with you out into nature. And just by the way, I'm so happy that we're talking about this topic today because it just affects a lot of people. So let's move on to the next slide, which I'd like to ask you to explain to me. Yeah, that's very interesting. That would, of course, be worth an hour-long topic. I try to explain it relatively simply and quickly too. People talk a lot about the immune system these days, corona immune system. And this immune system is really a key to a long, but above all, a good high-quality life. And this immunity, of course, depends on the diet, but to the same extent on the movement, and most people don't know that. The diet, that's what leads to all of the vital substances. But when you sit and your diet is perfect, let's assume we do everything through nutrition. Our diet is perfect, whatever that means. And we supply all of these vital substances. Then you have to know that there are consumers of these vital substances. Probably the biggest consumer, what I'm saying now is not scientific, it's my almost 70 years of life experience in this area. I would say the biggest consumer is probably stress. Of course, illnesses too. If I have basic inflammatory diseases, if I have rheumatism, if I have an underlying inflammatory disease, it of course also uses up many of these minerals, vitamins and vital substances, basic diseases. And what we don't talk about at all is this wrong movement. So pain in movement, that uses so much. So if I get blows in the joints through the hard, flat ground, it stresses the body. We don't feel it because if we felt it with every step, then we could no longer live at all, which is why the body suppresses it. But wrong movement creates tension. And body tension in turn is a measure of life expectancy. There are a lot of studies about it. Body tension, you can also measure hand strength in older people. You can see how good the hand strength is. And the weaker the hand is, the fewer years they have left to live. But hand strength is also strongly connected to body tension. And when I have good body tension, then I'm more upright. When I have less body tension, I tend to fall forward. And tensions are counterproductive for the body tension. So if I have tensions in my body, be it in the neck, be that wherever the fascia no longer gives the full range of motion, If I want to walk upright, the joints have to function well. And also in the thoracic spine, there is a rotation. The thoracic spine can rotate so that the reactive arm swing comes into motion when walking. And neck muscles won't relax without the reactive arm swing. And tension, as I said, counteracts this body tension, which is a measure of life expectancy and quality of life. And these tensions are called, I read this in a book for the first time 30 years ago in Korea, internal stress. There's psychological stress and physical stress. Physical stress are tensions in the body through sitting too much. We sit now too, but I don't like to sit too much. I prefer to sit and then I can stretch like this. Yeah, wherever mobility is no longer there, when tension's there, where there are fascial adhesions and entanglements, it creates stress. That affects the stomach, for example, the intestines and stomach. The stomach is also very closely connected to the brain. The intestine has a similar shape to the brain. That would be another topic again, but movement, healthy movement, physiological movement, and not the amount of movement, has an enormous correlation with internal stress. And internal stress, so tension plus psychological stress, are probably the biggest consumers. And if I can consume less through healthy movement, then I need less nutrients. Yeah, understood, of course, sure. I can still supply myself with nutrients. You can also measure that. I measure my immune system. And maybe one more thing. That barrel, so to speak, the immune system, the higher the level is of antioxidants, so that's the level of immunity, so the level of health. So antioxidants mean health, and if less is consumed there through healthy exercise, then you have a higher level of health. Sure, and you can measure that. There are devices that measure the carotene in the blood. Carotene is a representative biomarker of other antioxidants in the body. And I can watch when I drank wine in the evening or slept badly, had stress. I'm also tense sometimes. I'm not always relaxed either. That's why I also learn, because I also have my problems. Thankfully, they're 95% less than 10 years ago. And then I can see exactly 8, 8.5, 7.5. Over time, you can see exactly what has which influence on my immune system. It's measurable. Incredible. Now, this slide, for example, I can't take it for 2 minutes to sit like this. I won't have any more blood circulation then. So you can see that I'm sitting far too much. The fasciae are stuck. We'd probably say now as a diagnosis. Is that correct? There are many factors that enable this sitting posture, the Asian squat as it's called, or the deep squat. By the way, in Asia they say, I lived in South Korea for 20 years, in Asia they say that the ability, by the way, there are also studies about the ability to squat like this. It says how long I will live, and also how well I'll live. It says something about the future quality of life. So, if you want to live long enough, it makes sense to learn this squat. I do this 100 times a day. When weeding as a self-supporter, I've gotten used to always squatting down. We could make another episode about this. Let's do one, exactly. And by the way, there are many tutorials on YouTube. Check out YouTube under Deep Squat. It has nothing to do with us. There are very, very good videos that also confirm that with the studies, that also teach this deep squat. And you'll see that this has a huge impact on your quality of life. And if you then also wear elastic, springy shoes, then this is also maintained. The elastic, springy walking or the trampolining. That just means that this mobility is maintained. Impressive. So I just started exercising 4 days ago. I can of course say already how successful I am, but I feel really good. After 4 days of training, I'll continue trampolining. And of course I'll now use this trampoline principle in my life every day. But I wasn't aware of it, and that's why it's so significant and important to discuss this topic today and to point us into a direction how to move when we walk on hard ground. That's the point. Well, we have the fascia here. My wife talks about fascia all the time. Actually, I didn't really know what it was. But that's this network here, and it tends to stick together all the time. Yeah, the subject of fascia, a subject that could last for hours, of course. Maybe we can just do a teaser of what fascia are. And of course, we have already known connective tissue for ages. But in medicine, they used to cut it off because they wanted to get the muscles out. However, if you look at a muscle fibre, then it's also enveloped. When you grill meat for someone who eats meat, you see, when you cut the meat and pull it apart, something very thin, fine, white, bluish, semi-transparent. These are fascia. And in these fasciae, there's all the technology for controlling the muscle of the musculoskeletal system behind it. So this is all done by these fasciae, which are simply cut during surgeries. What happens afterwards when they're cut? Well, the body is so highly intelligent and clever, apart from the fact that there is also scarring. That movement, the fasciae must be able to move one another. You can see that nicely in this picture, or with the orange. The fasciae have many functions. One function is the support function. They give something its form. So they give the orange its shape. Now, if you squeeze an orange a little bit, it would all get a bit oval, and then it diverges again. And in humans too, you can squeeze it and it'll diverge again. With a javelin throw, what happens is that these fasciae are stretched. The fasciae are hardly stretchable. Pure muscle fibre, without the fascia covering around it, is stupid. It can only contract itself. It can only contract or let go. But the shell around it tells this muscle fibre in there what it needs to do. If you're doing high jump, javelin throw, or whatever sport, or walking or jumping, then the springy element, this thing that can be stretched, is the fascia. And the muscle fibre just tells to contract, and then it all contracts. And that enables us to walk and move at all. And all the control comes partly from the brain, but this movement pattern, like for Roger Federer, who can play tennis so well, that's millions of repetitions he does in tennis. Millions of repetitions. And saving this, or when you do a handstand, and go up very slowly so that you don't fall over, most of the controls are in the fascia. Also in the brain, but for reactive things we have control and measurement receptors. There are receptors in every fascia. Control receptors, measuring receptors. They're called Golgis, Raffinis, Pacchinis in technical terms. And everything is controlled there. The fasciae have, well, I could go on forever going from here to there. For example, the sense of balance. we have 5 senses, and this sense of balance is also a sense, but it's not one of the 5. And the sense of balance, the platform for the sense of balance, is in the fascia. So watch out if you have a surgery as your sense of balance is being tinkered with. So be careful. Let's go into the solution. For example, there's this trampoline effect in a shoe here. How does this affect the fascia now? If you look at the Maasai warriors, how they can jump. They jump 10, 20 times, up to 50 centimeters. It's like a spring. It's so elastic. And our muscles are also designed to be elastic. And body tension is so important. Strength, hand strength, as I said, and foot strength, they are related. And that would actually be, our muscles would actually be the trampoline, our body's own trampoline where we should be elastic. And if we put this under our feet now, so if you bought a trampoline and jump, then you actually train your muscles to become a trampoline themselves. And if we have it in our shoes, in the soles, is the slagging also decreasing? So these fascial adhesions are improving too? They can partially. Of course, it only resolves where you are on the verge of this flexibility. So in the ankle area, they will be released. These adhesions, when you move your foot. If you want to move it even more, you'll need additional stretching and additional fascia therapy. Or, if there are scars, scar therapy, where these scars are removed. But what happens? They don't stick anymore. There are people who've been practicing yoga for a lifetime without any progress. It's not enough to do half an hour of yoga once or 2 or 3 times a week. They stuck together again very quickly. Therefore, if you want to do the splits, you need much more. But what you've gained in mobility, you no longer lose through the elastic, springy walking, because with the elastic, springy walking, maybe you can show it again here or there too, yeah, because you walk balanced, and when you balance, like with a trampoline or elastic springy walking, trampoline walking, then you balance. And balance means all muscle layers are active. And when the muscles are active, they don't stick together. If you put a joint in a cast for 6 weeks, then it sticks together. So not moving means sticking together. And moving through a balancing walk, through trampoline movement, then they no longer stick together. If I now look very closely at this foot and see how the heel settles, and that there is actually no blow here, because the blow is actually absorbed by this trampoline in the shoe. On the one hand, it's caught by this elastic spring. On the other hand, because when I have an elastic springy shoe under my feet, then my whole muscle fascia or neuromyofascial system is actively prepared and then actually becomes a trampoline that begins to be elastic itself. So as soon as I put my heel on, the material helps to cushion a bit, but because the muscles of the neuromyofascia become active immediately, they immediately become the body's own trampoline. Here you can also see on the right that it's elastic. The muscle system itself is contracted. so that it becomes a trampoline system itself. And that's the goal. I really only ask myself one thing. Why are such systems of footwear not offered to us through the health insurance? From a health prevention concept, the government is now looking very closely at our health. That has become apparent in the whole corona phase. I ask myself, why don't we just go on to the musculoskeletal system and say, we have to get out, exercise is healthy. But we have to be careful not to walk on hard ground, and that's something that should actually be imposed on us by the government. Should, I say, it should, if we want to get to the root cause of the problem. I'm not a politician. Neither are we somehow in interest groups. Who thinks that the health insurance is interested in healthy people? I'm a little bit mean now, but imagine that there were no more sick people. Then the health insurance would be abolished. There'd be no more jobs. In health insurances, in hospitals, everything would be abolished everywhere. That's not that easy. This is, of course, an extreme example, but already a decrease through such a simple way is, of course, a first step towards retreating. In our special episode where we talked about surgeries, you also mentioned a number. Your personal impression, based on your many years of experience, is that a very high percentage of upcoming surgeries could be prevented if you really look at the causes here. Mainly to bring the musculoskeletal system into an upright position, so that precisely these red zones, here on the knee, on the hip, or here on the neck, that there are no centres of inflammation or defective positions that ultimately affect our entire musculoskeletal system in a negative way. That's a cause-based treatment, I think. Yeah, that's why I do it. That's why I'm still working at almost 70. Full of enthusiasm and passion, dear Karl. The viewers at home are, of course, also wondering that they would like to try out how this kind of walking behaviour feels on their musculoskeletal system. And I know you have a network all over the world. What is the best way for viewers from German-speaking countries to orientate themselves, but maybe also mention it internationally, because the show is also translated into English, so that people around the world know what the next step is to have this experience? Yeah, that's the nice thing, the special thing too, that our concept includes advice, which you can get on site in the Kybun Joya shops, that you can try them out. 30 francs for 2 weeks, and you have 1 or 2 hours of advice included. And then you don't have to buy these shoes. You can't try a surgery. We are currently active in between 30 and 40 countries. Yeah, English-speaking countries too, of course. America, China, the Far East. We're quite well represented in Thailand, but also in German-speaking areas. You can find the shops, our shops, or some of them are health centres, partly health shops called Kybun Joya. If you look up Kybun Joya, or use the link that you shared in the last episode, you can't only buy shoes, but try them out. The effect of this qualitatively completely different movement, as close to nature as possible. Of course, the perfect nature is barefoot on uneven land. But this movement that we're trying to imitate, this natural movement, you can try it out, and then you can feel what is happening on your own body. And our staff are very happy to invest time, and you won't be rushed to do anything. You can try it out without obligation. Dear Karl, my sincere thanks for this honour of bringing this important information out through our broadcaster. For me, this is natural medicine. For me, it's the basis, a co-basis for nutrition, complementary. Also to move correctly without getting into these stooped problem areas, as we've seen in the skeleton, such as the knees, the hips, or the neck. I notice it in myself too. I'm only 52. You might think that I hear all the wisdom from all the experts here. Yep, that's true. I'm also very grateful, but I still have to do it myself. And that's a bit of the weaker self. And that's how I've now started trampolining. And that was point one. I'm also very proud of it. And now to hear about these shoes too, so that I can also do a training session during the day. And I don't have to think about it, and it doesn't bother me or is exhausting, but I'm simply able to do a workout every day using footwear. And that was new to me. I've known these shoes since 2001. I've known this shoe for 20 years. But nobody explained it to me. I just thought it was a comfortable shoe, done. But not all of the medical science behind it, and what good it does to me. This is actually the heart of the matter. The vendor has to explain to me what this shoe is for, that it isn't just simply pretty and comfortable. So, dear Karl, for me, you are a really great hero. And I'll tell you that again 20 times because you deserve it. I wish you all the best in your life. Thanks for this episode. Dear Karl, all the best. Thank you, Alexander. All the best to you too. And of course, I wish you the same. And see you next time.